Como una respuesta a la crisis ecológica y social que está sufriendo nuestro planeta, la primera semana de enero de 1994 se llevó a cabo el cuarto Simposio Internacional sobre Ciencia y Conciencia en la zona arqueológica maya de UXMAL, Yucatán, al sureste de la República Mexicana. Los tres anteriores eventos se llevaron a cabo en las ciudades de Olimpia y Atenas, en Grecia. Como resultado de aquellos esfuerzos, se hizo un urgente llamado a todos los habitantes de la Tierra para cuidar mejor nuestro planeta. El propósito específico de este cuarto simposio fue explorar dos horizontes: la naturaleza misma de la conciencia y la importancia de los valores. En este evento se reunieron en UXMAL más de 100 importantes científicos de 15 países diferentes, representando los principales campos de la ciencia: biología, ciencias médicas, física, matemáticas, neuropsicología y ciencias psicológicas y sociales. Asimismo, estuvieron presentes diversas personalidades del mundo espiritual. Adelantar lo que es ya un futuro,
to be ahead of what is already a future,
es posiblemente
is perhaps
la tarea más importante
the most important task
de nuestras universidades
that lies within our universities
en nuestro país.
in our country.
Decir adelantar no significa nada,
To say to be ahead really means nothing,
puesto que el futuro por llegar,
because the future which is about to arrive,
en él estamos nosotros
we're in it,
inmersos.
we're already deeply within it.
Sin embargo,
Yet,
todos los valores
all values
y los productos de la ciencia y la tecnología
and products of science and of technology
no tienen sentido
have no sense.
si nosotros no apreciamos
They make no sense if we don't appreciate
las demás expresiones
the remaining expressions
de lo que es el espíritu humano.
of what is the human spirit.
Therefore, we, the participants of the Third International Symposium on
Por lo
Science and Consciousness,
tanto nosotros los que participamos en el tercer Simposio Internacional de Ciencia y Conciencia,
call for intense worldwide efforts by all people
pedimos la colaboración intensa de todo el mundo,
especially scientists,
muy especialmente de los científicos,
educators, and decision makers,
de los educadores y de aquellos que toman las determinaciones,
to increase our understanding of consciousness
que aumenten nuestra comprensión de lo que es la conciencia
and to foster the development of spiritual values in our lives.
y que aumenten la importancia de los valores espirituales en nuestras vidas.
Science is basically concerned with deciphering the codes of life and also understanding the various laws of nature.
La ciencia nos sirve para guiarnos en la vida y darnos entendimiento de lo que son algunas cosas de la vida.
It broadens our vision and our understanding of the universe.
Nos da también alguna comprensión de lo que es el universo.
It places in the hands of man a great power,
Pone en manos del hombre un poder muy fuerte,
but it all depends how we use that power.
pero depende de cómo utilizamos esa potencia.
It is here that the question of values comes up.
Aquí es donde se levanta el problema de los valores.
El cuarto Simposio Internacional sobre Ciencia y Conciencia Fue realizado bajo los auspicios de la Universidad Autónoma Metropolitana, Unidad Xochimilco, de México, la Universidad Espiritual Mundial Brahma Kumaris, organismo no gubernamental de las Naciones Unidas, y la Sociedad Ateniense para el Desarrollo del Hombre y de la Ciencia. El diálogo dio inicio con el problema de los valores.
Algunas reflexiones sobre estas inquietudes que nos mantienen juntos aquí. Quiero partir con ¿qué es el hombre? En cuanto a una sola pregunta, y es el hombre el único ser que pregunta. Nosotros estamos reunidos tanto para hacer las preguntas o las otras preguntas, así como para dar respuestas, por lo menos parciales, a las preguntas que hemos hecho tanto en otras reuniones como a lo largo de nuestras carreras.
Parece que las crisis que nos envuelven, económicas, ecológicas, sociales, personales, son solo síntomas de la crisis global de nuestra civilización, surgida en el siglo XVII de la mano en gran medida de la ciencia mecanicista y basada en la explotación de la naturaleza y de los demás. Parecería igualmente que solo un cambio de civilización solamente podría crearse una nueva sociedad si ocurre un cambio profundo en el corazón humano.
To create means to arrive at something that is original for yourself, not original for other people. Maybe other people have done it thousands and thousands of times before, but original for yourself. When working with young children, I've always been stirred by the creative and imaginative process that goes on. And yet, when I've worked with older children, I've been devastated in some ways, and it's not too strong a word, to see the extent to which that part of their life has been rejected. The creative process, the artistic process. People tell me they can't draw, for example. Everybody can hold a pencil, can draw. Everybody can experience delight from drawing. Everybody can sing. All these things have been, in a sense, conditioned out of the child because they're told there's a level of perfection which they must reach in order for these things to be in any sense authentic. Authenticity actually comes from the experience itself, not from a level or standard which is imposed from outside.
Total trust, total acceptance, expansion of sensitivity, expansion of sensuality. Chimpanzees do not live like that. Chimpanzees live in a continuous dynamics of struggle for domination and submission. We human beings are animals in which childhood has been expanded. There is a biological word for that. We are neotenic animals. We, modern human beings, are grown-up children. Big children. Adulthood has been postponed. We are animals biologically dependent on love. We become ill when love is interfered with. And the first medicine is love.
And when we see others suffering, then also it's very difficult to be able to bear that. Because the human being has compassion. But today people have let go of compassion and have become, and hearts have become very hard.
जिसको इंसान के लिए अहिंसा परमो धर्म कहा जाता है, उसको छोड़ करके हिंसा एक अपना धर्म समझा है.
In fact, one of the foremost qualities of religion has been described as non-violence, and we've let go of that particular quality and we've become very violent and aggressive.
जिस कारण छोटे बड़े में इंसानियत खत्म हो गई.
And so in young and old, the quality of humanity has been lost.
लड़ाई जिसे बहादुरी समझते हैं.
And people think that to fight is a sign of courage.
कोई हमको भी कोई कहना है कि शांत रहेंगे तो जैसे समझते हैं कमजोर है, कायर है.
And people begin to think that if I'm peaceful, it's a sign of weakness or cowardice.
तो ये परिवर्तन संसार सारे में होना चाहिए.
And so there has to be a transformation in the entire world.
Veamos de qué hablan los científicos durante sus descansos.
One of the fundamental aspects of consciousness is this capacity.
One of the things that I find attractive is the notion that through the material world, consciousness is given form, and through consciousness, the material world is realized. That is, it is in a sense made subjectively real, and that might be the fundamental relationship.
Yes. But the other question is, what if consciousness gives form, whether there is any individual, whether the individual is enabled to alter the form in any way, whether the individual can direct form. That's
Well, I think
a
that's
crucial question.
I think it's a matter of degree.
Yes.
And the levels of consciousness that we're aware of, 7 levels of consciousness, and we were relating what people were saying to these levels of consciousness and personality and the soul level and the personality level and the differences between those and the effect it has in human values. This is what we were discussing.
The difficulty is that because we're asking a very precise perception of something, and this time it was values, I thought the last speaker did very well to define for us where our struggle is, where our difficulties are in terms of psychological change, integration of our psychological nature with the spiritual aspect of our being. And how would you define that in half an hour? He and I have spoken 2-3 years together about it. So we've had a lot of discussion about it.
Y curioso, no obstante que en ciencia hemos adelantado mucho, casi estamos discutiendo lo mismo que discutían los griegos en su lenguaje y en sus alcances, lo mismo que no hay conciencia y que si es una entidad separada o es simplemente la actividad funcional del sistema nervioso, ¿no?
Sí, 26 siglos de ciencia y conciencia, yo creo que no nos han dado mucha luz sobre estos temas. The ego level or the persona level, again to use a psychological term, is one of fragmentation and very limitation and shadows and passions and fears. By understanding the other spaces exist and are attainable, the self is able to have a wider range of experience across a more total reality. And that's what we call healing, is going from the persona and the shadow level in your practice, is the embracing the negative, the embracing the shadow, the embracing the forgotten or the disavowed into a whole, and then being able to progress to a greater spectrum of all of the experiencing across these levels of consciousness.
I personally like more to be in that state.
Oh yeah, it's more comfortable.
Because then from there everything makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I cannot conceive after having the experience of this fundamental or pre-space awareness to want to be in another level. I would like to be there always.
Yes.
And then be able to function, but with that feeling all the time.
Yes.
The wonderful thing about, I know nothing, so I'll speak as though I knew something. The pre-space has no becoming in it. It's not a little by little process. The pre-space is spontaneous in the sense that you can't help but do what you do. There's nothing that you could possibly do because you're doing it already. You're in the middle. And so this anthropomorphic language of moving between or among the ego, the metaspace, and the pre-space, it's each movement, like Alan Watts would say, is completely spontaneous from the point of view of pre-space. So ego is pre-space, metaspace is pre-space, and pre-space is pre-space. It's all, when you say you'd like to be there all the time, pre-space whispers to me, you're there all the time.
In one sense.
How does that sound to you? Yes.
If you don't realize or you realize.
Whether you
the
know
difference,
it or not.
Yeah, the difference is realization.
And it's the focus of awareness that makes a difference.
Yeah.
It's the focusing of the awareness.
La idea es que la percepción del espacio es una interpretación. Entonces nosotros percibimos la existencia de un espacio y de objetos dentro de ese espacio, etcétera, etcétera. Pero ¿cuál es el elemento a partir del cual hacemos esa interpretación? Debe de existir un nivel en donde exista una estructura preespacial a partir de la cual haces la interpretación del espacio. Entonces, por ejemplo, a nivel neurofisiológico se puede concebir que el primer nivel de participación cerebral en la construcción de la realidad sea la interacción de la estructura cerebral con la estructura preespacial. Y entonces el cerebro está diseñado para, a partir de esa interacción, construir la percepción del espacio, construir la percepción de objetos, etcétera, etcétera. Pero tanto la percepción de espacio como la de objetos es una interpretación a partir de una estructura preespacial, en donde eso no existe. Es nuestra participación en la decodificación de la estructura preespacial que crea la percepción del espacio y de todo lo que lo acompaña.
The Greek word for truth is aletheia, and it carries a totally different meaning to the Latin word, veritas. And of course in all Western languages the meaning of veritas is the prevalent one. Veritas is something which can be confirmed. But the Greek word for truth means very simply to lift the veil of forgetfulness. It's composed of two, the a, which is the negating a, and the lithi, the second part of the word. Lithi means to forget. So alethi, alethia means to lift this veil of forgetfulness. The word tells you what you must do. It assumes that you are in a state of slumber, sleeping, and you must lift this. You must lift this veil. What happens after you lift the veil is your business. All you need to do is to lift the veil. So truth is a very personal experience. We all have it in our different ways. It was not something that needs confirmation from any source. There is no authority that will tell you that you, Eduardo, are speaking the truth. No. Nobody can say that. You alone can say it.
En torno al problema de la conciencia, hubo dos posiciones distintas. Una planteó la unidad de todas las conciencias en una gran conciencia universal, y la otra planteó que cada ser tiene su propia conciencia individual y que ésta es irreductible.
Self, which is indivisible and which is persistent, so that can be a responsible being. Otherwise, if our states of mind are changing and we consider that our various states of mind are representative of our consciousness, that consciousness is nothing but these various states of mind or various perceptions, as Hume said, that whenever I try to enter into to find out what the self is, I always see some thoughts, some feelings of cold and hot and so on. So if I consider perceptions as various parts of consciousness, and besides it I do not consider anyone who experiences these, perceives these, that there is a thinker who has these thoughts, then whom do I hold morally responsible? Because I am in a fluid state, in a shifting position. In order that there may be moral values, there has to be someone who takes the responsibility of the action. Therefore, with the concept of consciousness is necessary the concept of karma, that there is someone who does the action and has a free will, and therefore it is responsible to observe or to violate those values.
In that the state of savikapa samadhi does indeed allow one to see and experience that connectedness between the self and the rest of the universe. And that, for me, was the rather unexpected outcome of seeing Earth in the context of the cosmos and experiencing self as connected with everything in that cosmos.
Edgar Mitchell is probably the only person, certainly the only person in recorded history, to have actually explored the outer space of the cosmos and to have explored inner space as well. And that, I think, is the nature of the privilege that has been extended to all of us in listening to him.
It was the experience upon coming back from the moon, upon perceiving the earth, the moon, the sun, the cosmos, from the purview, the point of view of deep space, of suddenly understanding or perceiving the connectedness of all reality, that self and the cosmos was a part of the same thing, that the universe was an intelligent part of self, and self was a part of the universe in the furthest reaches. Now, I didn't know how to describe that then, except that way. I now understand that in the mystical traditions, I learned to understand over the years, that would be the experience of going from an ego level of perception, which we dwell in most of the time, to a perception that the mystic would call the savikapa samadhi, the experience of perceiving the self and the connectedness as a unity, as a whole.
¿Cómo decidir? ¿Qué criterios pueden abalizar nuestras acciones? El Occidente no es lo detentor de la sabiduría absoluta. El Oriente milenar puede atestar la más pura fuente de valores enobrecedores de la especie humana, la compasión budista, el principio taoísta de la no acción, la estrategia de Gandhi de la resistencia pacífica pueden sumarse al amor cristiano como fuentes de un escalón de valores que se sobreponen a las diferencias de tiempo y lugar entre los hombres.
हम कोई ब्रह्मा कुमारी धर्म का प्रचार नहीं कर रही हूँ.
I'm not talking about the propagation of the Brahma Kumaris philosophy or religion,
या हिंदू क्रिश्चियन धर्म का नहीं प्रचार कर रही हूँ.
or the propagation of Hinduism or Christianity or any other religion.
पर इंसान का धर्म क्या है?
But my question is, what is the responsibility and the religion of humanity?
अंदर से स्वधर्म हर इंसान का है शांत.
That is using this word dharma, which means religion, it means way of life, it means duty, it means responsibility. The one word encompasses all these things. And so what is my original religion? What is the original state of humanity?
हर इंसान का धर्म है शांत.
The original religion of every human being is peace.
In the beginning, reason was only used to establish clearly what was fake, never to point what was true. If, as we discuss, we are able to stimulate one another in such a way that you tell me where I'm wrong and I am able to tell you where you're wrong, that's all that was required of reason. The rest was assumed to happen naturally. If you weed out what is false, truth wells up of its own. You never say what truth is. It happens of its own.
En el cuarto simposio internacional sobre ciencia y conciencia, no hubo una declaración oficial ni una conclusión determinada. La reflexión quedó abierta para el futuro, pues hay cosas que la ciencia aún no puede explicar y que la espiritualidad no puede demostrar con los métodos de la ciencia. Sin embargo, son parte de nuestra experiencia personal.